Bill,
Hey, Brian.
how are you, sir?
Good. How's your day going?
Good. It's been busy running from topic to topic, but good.
Good.
The day go by a little quicker. Oh, you're muted, Paul.
Hi, Paula. Hi, Gary.
Okay,
There you go.
does that make me unmuted?
You're unmuted.
Okay.
Hey, am I here? Anybody?
I hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, I can't see anybody. I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. Okay,
You may just have to change the view.
right.
It looks like Keith's with us too.
Okay.
There you are. Keith, can
You
you
want
hear
me
us?
to put it on mute? Yeah, I can hear you. Should I put mine on mute for now or not?
No, I think you're okay. But I
Okay.
also think that Keith Ball is with us too, and I just want to make sure he can hear us.
I'm here, but I don't know why I can't see you.
I
Oh,
see.
no, you can't see me, but I can see you.
Do you? I'm gonna send you a request to share your webcam. Did something just pop up on your screen?
There it goes.
There you are. Okay. What else are we missing? Is that everybody? Oh, we're missing Becky. Just missing Becky.
I don't know.
Want to get up?
Today is March 3rd. 1, 3.
Kathy Boyd's no on?
Wait a second.
Okay. So we got Bill.
You want to get up?
Here. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for Becky, and see if we can go from there. So I believe that the main purpose of our meeting was to follow up over our conversation from a few weeks ago, and to get a little more clarification from. We were going to start specifically to just understand a little bit more about the proposal that had come in from the gentleman's name is Peter. They've been shared by Rural Development Inc. about our project. And so Mariah did the follow-up after that meeting, and we did get some clarification, which is helpful. So what did they exactly say? So the question was, the two questions were, would additional units make sense for senior housing if family housing was what they were suggesting in that 34 unit building that they were talking about? And or would it make sense to add the additional parcel that you all have that comes off of Route 2 and it sort of abuts the backside of this, and maybe present it as a phase 1, phase 2 type project where there was extra space, maybe one was a building and another one was more like townhouses or something else. And I know we talked about that model from Maine where people may have something more like a condo type situation. So we did ask those questions, and they clarified there was a slight misunderstanding from their proposal that Mariah and I had. So they did clarify that for us. So what they said was this, and they're referring back to that example that they made of 34 units. The 34 units could be a mix of family and senior. The numbers were not specifically seniors or family specific. It very well can be a mix, and we can have a reservation for specifically a certain age and older if that was desired. So he continued, he goes, the element of, they called this a program, the element of that program can still be worked out. It wasn't meant to imply that senior units on their own would be infeasible. I think that the models were to answer that certain questions about the economic viability of the project. And And they were just saying that from the position of a developer, that some family units are going to make this project more likely to receive that funding that would be needed from the state and federal government. That we were talking about that sort of competition for those funds. So going back to that 34 unit model, they said that in that model, they had 19 one bedrooms. For instance, all of those could be designated as senior only units. He said that they also could look at a model that was say 45 units with 20 of those being senior. The point was that 30 to 40 units of solely senior housing has more economic risk for a proposal receiving funding, and would not be seen as positively by the state decision makers on that funding as it would be if there was a mix between some senior and some family. So it's coming back to that competitiveness. And then just said that, again, program design wise, another step that they haven't even gotten to yet was that senior units could be in a separate building or could be part of the same building. I mean, all of that is still something that will be worked out with a selected developer. And just one last piece, this particular gentleman who has been giving us information has been doing this all remotely from visuals from satellite photos. So he just wanted to let you know that he stopped by the site the other day and to visit the library, and just wanted to acknowledge that you have an absolutely beautiful location for this. So, this person also sees what you all see in the potential of the site. So hopefully that helps clarify again what was a misunderstanding, that the whole building does not need to be family units. It can be a mix of senior, reserved, and some family units. It's still, the recommendation was less market and predominantly affordable, which again, as we've talked about in the past, fits with the economic model that we're talking about here. We're looking at average monthly income for Franklin County. And I can get those charts back up. I know you've all reviewed them once before, so pull that back up. And that has nothing to do with whether or not somebody sells their home and decides to make a switch into a housing project like this. They're looking at your monthly average income. So I guess I will give you that update and see where that leads you for questions or what other data points you think you're going to want to know.
Would those family units and the senior units be separate?
They're saying it could be. They're not saying it has to be one way or the other. What they're just saying is that's again, they call this a program design. That level of detail sort of comes farther along in the process once you've started to work with a developer. But I believe what we could do in the RFP, all of this conversation is about getting that RFP updated so that we can issue it again. We would say that a preference would be for substantial separation between what is designated as the senior housing from the family housing. How a developer presents that to you is still up to them. And it's up to you to rate that whether or not it's advantageous the way that they style it for you.
And Brian, clarify family housing for me, please.
My understanding of family is that there's no age restriction. So when they're talking a mix of 1 to 3 bedroom units, you could potentially have a 3-bedroom unit or a 2-bedroom unit, and it could be a couple. It could be a couple of any age. It could be a couple with a dependent. It could be a single person with a dependent or two. I think that's what they're envisioning for family. I think the piece there is that there is no age restriction on that portion.
So it could be a couple with 4 or 5 kids too, right? No restriction?
No, well, no, the housing code wouldn't allow that. There's a certain occupancy per bedroom.
I was gonna say, if you had 2 or 3 in each bedroom, I don't know.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't allow that. I believe the max is 2 children to a room, I believe. But it depends on the room size. So if the room has a certain square footage, the rental company, the management company of the facility that would be built would have to make sure that occupancy is not being overextended. And again, remember, as part of your RFP, we're going to want to put in performance measures for what you would want to see in a management company. You're going to see the references. You're going to want to see their history of managing a property. You're going to want to know that this is an entity that manages not only the residents' concerns, but also takes care of that property and maintains it in a way that is expected.
That's gonna be real important for us.
Absolutely. I mean,
to get good management.
when you all met with that lady, Laura Schufelt from the Community Housing Partnership, I think she gave you an example of one town or one community actually did a road trip, and they started with references from New York, and they drove 95 all the way back to, I think it was the Cape, and they wanted to see every property that they had listed as references that they managed, so they could
Mhm.
literally look at it and talk to the residents on the site. I don't know if we go that far, but maybe we do.
I'm on it right now.
You know,
Yeah,
Did you write
I mean,
these
we're
reports?
potentially talking about a 99-year lease, so it's a fairly, though it's not a permanent decision, it's going to be permanent for all of our lives. So it's something that we're going to want to do thoughtfully.
Brian, this is Jackie on the line. She said that she registered, but she's just, what are you doing, waiting for?
She's not in the waiting room.
You, okay, you're not in the waiting room.
If you want to let her know that I'll send an invite.
He'll send you an invite.
One moment, everybody. Let me just send this to Jackie.
Okay, all right, thanks. Bye. You know, I think it was easy. I don't know if she got it confused or not, because I'm in the meeting tonight and I registered for that, and then I registered for this, and I accidentally went to the other one, so who knows?
It's possible. I mean, I have 20-something people who have already signed up for the meeting tonight. So
Yeah, no kidding.
possible.
So Brian, can I just bring this up and tell me what you guys think? And I talked to Keith a little bit about it. And this is just thinking outside of the box, okay? I know that if we have something like this built and it's 50 or 60 units or 34 and 40, whatever it is, okay? That's gonna be millions of dollars. It's obvious, millions of dollars, because a large unit and then this, that, and the other thing.
Yep.
What would happen if, for example, you made it and you plotted it out so that you knew that that 5 acres with, saying reasonable distance in between, held 60 modular homes that were built for senior residences, okay? Like they're like 900 square feet. They would have, you know, it would be managed by either kind of like a condo association, or would it ever be somebody like that Irving managed, because it's their land. The land was done by an independent, the buildings were done by an independent contractor. They're built for them, and the maximum space is like 60 units. And that way, doesn't that get away from all the regulations of you know, could it be a penalty 55? It could be a units for 55 and older. The price point would be what, you know, whatever. We would make it so that it was reasonable or fair to market, and everybody would be independent. And then what would happen is that the snow plowing, all that would almost be like a condo fee. Is something like that ever feasible? Because I looked into a lot of residences of senior communities that were independent homes, but they were small. They weren't like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was a shower that was wide enough for a wheelchair to get in. It was flat, and it could be up to 2 bedrooms and no more than that. And I don't know if that feasible, because then the independent contractor could come in and it could be whoever buys it without a lot of.
I would say, yeah, that's an option. A private developer could present an option like this to do something that's more like a homeowners association or a condo association model. And those things, you know, how you share the maintenance, how you share the road clearing and all of those pieces, those become contractual arrangements that the homeowners association has with every property owner or condo owner, right? So is that an option? Of course, that's an option. I think you're still going to have the balance with a market consideration. So you're still going to have to find a developer who's going to be interested enough in our site and doing that work in marketing and selling those units, and then creating the homeowners association and setting that up. So yes, you move away a little bit from the management company side of this, and you would potentially move away from the subsidies piece of this.
Mhm.
But you have to find a developer who's going to be that interested and hungry for it, and you're right back to market principles again. So will the market support that is going to be the question.
Well, what I'm saying is it also could be done probably in less than 10 years, which we keep on listening to how long it's going to take. And by the time 10 years comes, you know, everything's going to be different. But if you like some of these homes that I saw pictures of, they were tiny houses that were built for seniors, and they were very nice. They just weren't huge. And then
Right.
in the middle of it or on the side or whatever was a community center that would be part of either the town could own it, or the builder, probably the builder would own it. And you would kind of lease the land for like the 100 years type of thing.
Paula, are you implying that this is a rental, or are
No.
these properties individually owned?
Well, it could be two ways, Bill. Say, for example, you decided that you want to buy 4 of them, okay? So you're going to build 4, but you're going to rent them. You can do a rental. You may not own it, but you could do a rental. Or you could buy 1 for yourself and 3 rentals because you knew it could be an investment for you,
Right.
and get the rental fee.
Wouldn't that be a whole lot more expensive to do individual tiny houses as opposed to units in a big, like so many units in a building?
I don't think so. When you looked
No?
at the tiny houses, they were about $100,000 a piece or less, delivered, fully done beautifully.
Even with furnishing.
Furnishings, everything. We're not talking trailer here. We're talking tiny houses or modular built homes that were on the smaller side
So,
for seniors.
so we're doing to me, this suggests that you're doing away with affordable housing, and you're doing away with senior housing unless the seniors have the ability to afford to purchase a property.
Well, it wouldn't be, I don't want to say it's not affordable. I think that it is affordable. It'd be no different. Like, for example, Bill, if
Yeah.
you owned a home
Yeah.
and you sold your home for
Yeah.
$200,000, and you decided to go into this, no different than like a condo or anything of that nature, and you did that, you could then sell this unit after. It's not like you lose all the money through the rental.
Right.
And it'd be a rental, like your rental fee or your payment would probably be less than you would do on some of these affordable housing things.
Right.
Affordable housing was $1,000.
$1,200 was some of the affordable housing units.
Right.
So you should be able to easily have a home for less than that a month.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but it sounds like if we were to go in that direction, that we're totally moving away from what we were tasked with doing, and that was to have a contractor come in and develop senior housing. That's totally, what you're suggesting appears to be totally different than what we're tasked with doing.
Well, this would be senior housing. This would be 55 and older.
Right, right. But it would be for only people who could afford that. There are
I'm on
people
here
who
till about
live
4:30.
in
I
Irving
got the
who
chief meeting.
can't even afford
Call to Jim tomorrow.
what the affordable housing price is on the documents we received
Sorry, Jeff,
at
I didn't
our
go out
last meeting. So if they can't even afford that, those same people aren't going to be able to afford what you're suggesting.
I was gonna say, people that have just an apartment now, they're not gonna come up with $100,000 because they, I
Right.
mean, if they can't afford a house now.
If they have an apartment though, what would be the reason to go into senior housing?
Yeah. As I
If
said,
it's not
Low income.
right, and if it's not every apartment building is set up for this. So if somebody's been living in a specific location, but it wasn't designed to meet their mobility place, they may be searching for a place that's designed for that.
Right, but so if you built this unit that has like 34 to 60 units, it's gonna be multi-millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And
No matter what we do, it's going to be.
Right.
The question.
And we're not going to be building it. The contractor's going to be building it.
correct.
So we don't care how much it costs. I know I don't care how much it costs. It's because we're not putting in a bill.
Yeah.
Well, and
Contractors will.
to all of your points, if it's an affordable housing complex and these tax credits are viable based on the way it's structured, you're still, to Paula's point, you're talking a $10 million project.
Right.
But the cost per unit is approximately $250,000. So there's the unit construction plus all of those shared things, the community room, the entryways, the elevators, the stuff that makes the whole property work. It's shared by each unit, right?
Mhm.
If instead you switch that to be a development and everybody's going to buy their own property, their own small house, yes, the house costs, but you still have to make a road to each of those units. You have to run the water infrastructure. So you still have those shared costs, which have to be borne somehow.
Right.
And in this case, a developer would have to, again, see the economic viability of making all the infrastructure improvements,
Mhm.
finding a way to put that into the sale price of each of these homes. So not only get the home, but also recoup all that money that they would have to put into leveling the property and creating that infrastructure. So I think the market forces are what's going to drive any response that we're going to see here. And in some ways, even though it sounds like a more expensive project, potentially those tax credits coming in for the project may make the affordable side more advantageous, whereas a market side, unless the market was feeling really strong, an at market rate may still be a little harder. I'll just go from my lived experience in Greenfield, having seen a few housing developments come in the neighborhood that I live in, which was all farming land before. The large full-size houses took over a decade to build out a 30 house subdivision. McCart Acres, that's McCart Acres is near my house. Silver Acres or whatever it's called down off of Silver Street, which is predominantly senior housing. I believe it's 55 and older is the age restriction, and that's all one floor living. That built out and developed, I think, within a 5-year time period. It was also 30 units, and that were 4 units, somewhere about there.
Right. And that's because it was independent, Brian.
But the market's what drives it. So I think that's our challenge is going to be presenting our project in a way that says to a developer, this is a risk. Any project's a risk worth taking in Irving, and then they're going to turn around to the market and say, well, the market support this, and that's going to be something that us at this table can't control the market. There's a lot of reasons that people want to be in this town, and I see your housing stock leave the market very quickly. Typically, properties come on and off the market in under a month in Irving, and my understanding is all of them have been going at or above market value, which is also very promising. Is that going to be true 5 years from now? I don't know. So I don't know how long we can trust that this is going to be our market. I don't know.
Do we know who built that Silver Street unit?
I believe that was the Penfields.
Yes, it was.
The Penfields?
Yeah, it
Yep.
was independent. It was
Oh.
independent. But
You
they are
know-
very expensive, Bill. They're almost like $300,000 a unit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Started at 250,000 and went up from there.
Oh,
And,
And this
and
was-
again, Bill, so I think Paula's point is thinking there may be a market for something where the housing, these all share a wall. So they're separate homes, but they all share one wall.
Right.
So it's two houses at a junction, right?
a townhouse.
Right.
Right.
So,
But this, right.
I think
but-
your model has a potential. I think we've seen examples where it could work. But again, we have to be able to match the project and the developer and the market all at the right time to make all of these pieces work. Sometimes they all align at the right time and it happens, and other times it can peter out. And I don't know enough about the market to say that this is going to work. I don't know.
So what I'm thinking of is, for example, if the town were to say, I mean, can you imagine, you are a builder like Penfield who's got a few dollars invested in the community, okay? And they had to purchase all that property. Here you have and not purchase the property, and
Right.
you are going to make a investment into one house as a sample, okay? And the one house has 3-4 layouts, but there still have to remain within so much square feet, okay?
Mhm.
And you know that you can get 60 of these houses out there, and you build one. And so then next thing you know, you market it and you say, this is what can happen. Now, they may, you can rent it. Maybe they do it as you can rent it. Who knows? I mean, these are all things that I said, if we can think outside the box, we could have this done in 5 years and not in 10 years, and be able to control who goes in, who doesn't go in, and have a 55-year-old community. And you could pick out, all your insides, like here's the choice of this, you want stainless, you don't want this, and you'd have a choice to build it, and it comes in prefab. So
So
it's
can I
done
ask you-
in 3 months.
Can I ask you, you just said that, were you saying the town would have a choice in who comes into the property?
No. Well, they do, because they own the property. They're not going to sell the property.
Right, but we would only have control over who we're long-term leasing it to.
Yep.
And so from that point, we lose control beyond there. I mean, we can put aesthetic pieces into our contract, and we can put other preferences. We can do age restrictions, but that initial agreements in place, the management company or the developer takes it from there. So if every unit is customized by whomever they're selling them to,
Mhm.
I mean, there's only so much after that we can control. Building a building during a development process where it's all predetermined plans that are going out to bid, that's one way of controlling. But if we're talking, say in your example, 60 units, that the style can change over the years, the colors will change, the whatever else, we lose some say in all of that going forward.
Well, you in a way you don't. In a way, and maybe not, because, like, for example, as part of it, these are your choices.
Right.
And, just like in a development, like if you look out in Las Vegas or anything like that, they have developments, but you can't put a red house out there, okay? You can only use these 3 colors or these 4 colors. Just like Deerfield, you can't have, there's stipulations of what you can do.
So you're
I don't
saying
know.
our long-term land lease, we would try to work in some of those aesthetic pieces?
Yes. size-wise, how much lawn, you know, and when you go into this unit, you would pay a low monthly fee that would take care of, because it's seniors now, your
Mhm.
yard, your snow blowing, maybe even your transportation, you know, things of that nature. I don't know. I just am throwing it out there. I'm just trying to think outside of the box.
Right. No, I think we have to think of all your options.
Can I step in here?
Please.
Go ahead.
These little tiny houses can be built anywhere from as cheap as $16,000 up to $150,000. Okay,
Yes.
so you have a lot of different areas to go with, different styles. That I mean, there's 14 different little mini house builders around New England here that we could talk to. You know, we could have 5 different designs in different parts of Massachusetts, specifically down in the Plymouth area. They have this great big huge development down there, and certain developments you're only allowed 5 different designs to choose from, and then you do the inside as far as the brass or the copper or the gold or whatever you want for it. But so that's what gets that $16,000 and going up. So and there's all sorts of different designs that they have for these communities that you don't have to have them all in a row. You can have them in circles and quadrangles or whatever. So it makes for a good, really good atmosphere for us old folks that are you know, trying to be in a little community.
Mhm.
And the other thing that I was reading in one of the blurbs that I was reading when I was looking for this stuff was that these developers, their median look for housing, senior housing project is 120 units. So if we're only talking about 40 or 60, then no wonder nobody's looking at it.
Mhm.
You know, it just doesn't make it feasible for them to come way out here to do something, or the people that we'd like to get locally to do it. You know, they don't have the time for 60 units, but 120 they may have the time and effort and energy to do it. So
Right.
that's what I found over the past looking at all these little houses. And you can go online and find all sorts of different places up here in New Hampshire, New York, up in Maine, Habitat for Humanity down here, and there's in Northampton. They built a couple of houses from this place out of Maine. So there's a lot of things to consider rather than just maybe not say, well, we don't want to do that, but you don't have to spend $100,000 on a house. It all depends upon the infrastructure. What's it going to cost you to build a road and put the water and sewer in, you know?
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's true. Do you have a sense, Keith, from the models that you're looking at, how large those parcels are?
Some of the houses that I looked at, they were 600 square feet.
Right. Do you know how large the land parcel was that they were?
No, I'm sorry, I do not, but I can probably go back online. If you could go to Habitat, they had a thing in the paper the other day, just as a matter of fact, it's the Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity. And they could you might be able to get some information from them. But it doesn't say, the house itself is not on a lot of land, obviously.
No.
Right.
And
I'm just trying to.
it doesn't not say how many acres of land that these particular houses. This may not have been a development. This may have been just a couple of individual homes where they were doing it for this particular owner or whatever. But
The only other thing that comes to mind beyond, we need to consider density on a parcel. We need to find a way. So right now we can do a friendly 40B, which has to do with zoning, which basically would remove Irving zoning regulations from applying to a affordable housing development. And so that was the initial plan. If we're moving away from that direction and we're doing more of a market style development where we're looking for a private developer who would take on and build out a model like this of tiny homes, we likely would not be going down this 40B route. So we then have to figure out how this works in our zoning. And right now, I don't believe Irving zoning is incredibly friendly to a development like this. I know that Mariah's been meeting with the planning board and trying to discuss sort of this evolution with tiny homes, having a conversation about more shared properties. But we're going to have to contend with the zoning law to make sure that we can do something like this.
Well, right now, we can't do something like that in the zone that it's in. So, because it's in rural residential.
Rural residential, yep.
So that's part of the problem, although affordable housing, they could, because we don't have enough affordable housing, or, they could get around the zoning. But yeah, currently as it sits, a private developer couldn't develop what you're talking about without us changing the zoning.
We could go to town meeting and do the zoning bylaw update process and see if we can find a way to make space for people like this.
Yes, you could create a zone. You could create a zone so that, because right now our most current zone is a ½ acre and 125 feet of frontage for a single family home and a 2-family. But if you get into multifamily, which is really what you're talking about with a cluster development, you still have to have that initial ½ acre and 125 feet of frontage. So other than that, it's like, I think a special permit. I don't have the zoning in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So you could designate that whole area. You have to be careful about spot zoning though, because the AG's also kick it out if you spot zone. But you could create like an overlay district. So that might solve your problem.
Right.
And this is not to change anything. This is just to look at alternatives
Of course.
of things, because I just believe that, if we go into the other route, who knows how long that's going to take. That could take forever. And it sounds like it's not even going to be senior housing. It'll end up being senior/family housing, regardless of what anybody wants or needs or whatever. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong with that.
Well, again, I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but I do think that you have a charge in the mission that the town has given us and the board has given by appointing this committee, and you've got 2+ decades of trying to work towards a goal. At the same point, we have to balance that with market principles and federal and state programs that are beyond our control. Right. They may align with our project, they may make this float. In other ways, they may not work towards our advantage. And if we try to go without them, we still have to deal with the market principles. So I don't think that we necessarily have to get away from what you want, but I do think that we have to be realistic in balancing what we're trying to achieve with all the other external things that they're part of the playing field with us. Mm-hmm. If we choose to go without these other factors, we may just have a larger uphill battle, and that's okay. It's just a reality that we need to be willing to accept. I mean, I don't know if I can personally think of a town example. It doesn't mean they don't exist, and it doesn't mean that we can't reach out to planning organizations to see if they know of an example where a town has done a solicitation for a private developer who has created cluster home developments like tiny houses for a specific age group that did not have an affordability aspect to it. I don't know of an example. again, doesn't mean they're not out there, doesn't mean we can't find one. But I just want to be upfront that this sounds a little bit different than what typically a town would engage in. Doesn't mean we can't do it.
Brian, when you say it doesn't have an affordability to it, what exactly, I guess I'm confused at that because if you go into the, like a 60 unit and it's $1,200 a month.
Yep.
Is that considered affordable?
No, what makes those affordable, going back to our initial, the idea of like an apartment building with these units that a housing entity would build, the unit itself may be $1,200 a month or $1,400 a month. The tax subsidies that they're getting from the federal government is what makes it affordable. So it's charged 60% of their average monthly income. And so that goes towards that $1,200, but it doesn't pay the full amount. That tax credit coming from the federal government pays the balance. And because that's guaranteed income, cash flow, it makes their model work.
Okay, so really and truly though, for example, and that's why I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah.
If, for example, someone goes and they have a house worth a couple $100,000, and that's nothing today in comparison to other places. They
Agreed.
sell the house for a couple $100,000, okay? They didn't own a mortgage on it. They owned it free and clear. So now they just go into a rental mode, okay? Now they're not gonna pay a mortgage. They're gonna go into a rental mode.
Right.
Is their income looked at? I mean, don't they have to now qualify to go in there?
Yes, you have to fill out the applications and make sure that you fit the piece of that. But again, they're looking at your average monthly income. So they're looking at what you take in every month in comparison to what the county has for an average monthly income, and you're trying to fit into the income models. If you sell your house once, the transaction, yes, that has an impact. No, they're not going to look at that and say, well, your monthly income skyrocketed in January, so you're now the bracket. That's a transaction, and they have people do this. People sell and they downsize, so they have a model for dealing with that. And I'm sure many people use that sale and the income that was generated by that sale towards their monthly income over the period of time that they live in a unit. We sort of did that at the senior housing, the assisted living facilities talked about seniors who sold their homes using that to pay those high monthly costs of living in the assisted living. So we've already heard that model before.
Right. But I think, Brian, what I was getting at is no matter what, your income is still, I don't mean that you sold your house for $200,000 and now you change your income bracket. What I'm saying is that when you apply, isn't your income looked at? So,
yes.
And I'm talking, so like, for example, if you came from a halfway decent income, but that's all you wanted to do is downsize, okay?
Right.
And you're still getting, say, $3,000 a month between Social Security and Medicare and all this stuff. You are going to be paying one rate, and the person that comes in that hasn't got next to nothing, they're going to be paying for the same apartment, a lower rate, correct? That's usually how it works.
There's an element to that. Again, on the tax credits that have been received. So there's average monthly income. Sometimes there's like 80% average monthly income, or 60% or 30% for the folks who are really. So it depends on the tax credits. In theory, it could be, but it depends on the mix that was applied for and what was issued.
Okay.
But those units become restricted to that eligibility bracket, because those tax credits get assigned to the units, the apartment. But I guess one more thought, we may, and I think we've already sort of acknowledged this in the past, we may be talking about a multi-phase project in the sense that we need to accomplish, as a town, we must accomplish affordable housing. We have none. So we have a problem there. And in the senior population seemed to be an appropriate population to work towards, making sure that that opportunity existed. So that's where this effort originally started. And I think Bill was speaking to that. If we are saying that in addition to that, we have folks in the senior population or who will be entering the senior population who will not qualify for this affordability piece because their income is above, and they aren't specifically looking for that. They're just looking to downsize. They are looking for something more market level, and they are looking for, you know, one-story living and that maybe a smaller community that these tiny home developments could lend themselves to. That may be a separate project that we're also looking at so that we're addressing that part of the market. We are not going to find one project that checks every single box. I think that's very clear to all of us. This may be two separate initiatives, but as Jackie was just articulating, we're going to have a zoning matter to deal with. If we're trying to do cluster developments and like a tiny home type of development, we're going to have to deal with that issue. We're going to have to deal with frontage issues. We're going to have to deal with all of those things. Does not mean we can't do them. One of these choices that we make and how we proceed is going to dictate the next level of work. And zoning changes don't happen super easy in communities. That's a long public hearing style process that takes a lot of debate with the planning board. The public is involved, town meetings are involved. So all of this has to meet the clearance of the voters.
It also is going to have a lot to do with what grants that we get, and you know, depending on whether we go one way.
Agreed.
Well, I have a couple of questions. I think one, if we go in the direction that Paula is suggesting and that Keith seems to be interested in as well, I think we'd have to bring this back to the select board, because I think we're going in a totally different direction than what we were tasked to do as a committee. My second issue is that in either of these cases, one, you got to get board approval to move in this direction, or to move equally in both directions. My question would be in getting both of these would need an RFP. Is an RFP something that we can do both at the same time? Put two RFPs out, and one for affordable housing with a combination of senior housing, and then something on the level that Paul and Keith are talking about.
Yeah.
Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I don't want to make it more work for anyone. I was just trying to think about getting things done quickly. Well, quicker, okay?
Right.
Because it's going to be a process. And then also have a little control over it, you know?
I think, and Mariah can maybe, and I hate to throw her on the spot, she just joined us, but maybe just quickly give us just a high level overview of where your research has led in terms of cluster home developments or tiny home developments with our current zoning. Because to do the RFP, Bill, yes, to your first answer, can we do both at the same time? Of course.
Right.
But we don't have the appropriate zoning in place.
Right.
Won't be able to make an award and move forward on the project.
Right.
So maybe Mariah, could you just give us a high level on what your research showed you?
I wish I could. With all the other zoning changes that we've proposed, I haven't really gotten to that yet. I'm sure Jackie can actually probably speak better to it. Just I know what I've seen in other communities, but I haven't compared that to what we currently have and what changes we would actually need to make to be able to have something like that. So I can look at that. It sounds like, I apologize for coming late to the meeting. I had a doctor's appointment, but it sounds like you're pursuing, or you'd like to look at cluster housing on, is it the other two parcels, or brought the parcel that we were originally looking at behind the library?
Correct.
So you would look at both at the same time and then decide?
That's the current question. Yep.
And would the cluster housing be affordable?
Cluster housing, the vision for the cluster housing right now sounds like it would be more of a market style. So probably a private developer that would be looking to control the property. So maintenance and aesthetics and all those pieces, the selection of who's buying them is all managed by the developer. So the town would have an arrangement with the developer. And then each unit sounds like they would be sold almost like a condo to each person. So the first people homing themselves there would have probably a selection process as to what the style of their home looks like and what the finishes are. In the future, I'm assuming those units just get sold on the market like a normal condo would be sold. So it's definitely a different structure than
I was wondering, so this is strictly going to be a buy-in, right?
the second model sounds that way.
Okay, so I, as an example for myself, like I have a big, beautiful house, but it's not mine. It's been trusted into my children's names for years and years and years. So I would have nothing. So that wouldn't be an option. I wouldn't be able to do it because I can't buy it, right?
So those are, again, we're not going to check all these boxes all at once. And it could be that we look at both options for this parcel. Only one can happen on the parcel. So we should be upfront about that. And if the town still has an interest in seeing both happen, it just mean that we prioritize one model over the other right now on the parcel and think about what mechanisms we can put into place to make it possible to do the other one in the future. No matter what choice we put forward, work will have to be done. I mean, that's just inevitable. But you're right, Denise, it doesn't lend itself to that scenario. You're right.
So I'd like to jump in again because one, there's some time limit to this meeting, and two, I thought part of what we were tasked with doing today is to determine if we were interested in going in the direction of housing that included affordable housing as well as senior housing. And the options that we were given by Mariah showed a 34 housing unit and a 50 unit with a split of 34-16. So I don't know how that works, whether that's 34 low-income housing with 16 senior housing. Is this, I thought this was one of the decisions we'd be making today. Is that a decision that we want to make?
The other way around.
Bill, I believe that so if it'd be 34 could be family
Right, okay.
and 16 senior, is that what you said, Mariah? Is
Right.
that correct?
No,
Or
Just
or
to
the
back up.
opposite, I don't know.
to back up, so the models that Mariah shared with you a month ago,
Yeah,
from
that's,
Peter, it was just to show you the economic model when they're planning out whether or not they can make a project work. And so he used 34 units as an example.
okay.
34 is sort of around that sweet spot that they can make it work. And he was trying to show the example that all affordable in a 34 unit model works. Trying to make a 50 unit model with 16 of those being market didn't work because you'd have to carry that debt load. So that's where that 34 and 16 was coming from. In the email I read to you today, he was clarifying that in that 34 example, say that was the model, say 20 of those were senior, reserved for senior, and the other 14 were not age restricted family units. That's possible. Sorry, it's been a busy day and my phone keeps going off the hook here. And some people don't take the hint. Anyhow, the other option that he said was we could relook at, again, all affordable, a slightly larger unit, maybe say 40 units. And again, a restriction on many of those, say 20 plus, being senior housing and the rest being family. They were just trying to be upfront and clear that
Yep.
not including a family component makes that less advantageous when applying for those tax credits.
Correct. Okay.
So,
But-
so Bill, to your question, I don't think you need to make a decision today about, do you want to draft an RFP with 19 specific senior units versus how many family units? I think in general, Mariah and I would need direction that you want to see an RFP that reflects that type of composition that we could bring back to you for your review. So I guess that's one question. And then now that we've had this presentation proposal for maybe a cluster housing development with maybe a slightly different model, I think we need more time to research on the backside what's all the regulatory pieces that we'd have to do and what are the considerations. Like, now we understand better the market implications of affordable housing. We now need to understand better the market implications of trying to do a private development like this, where you treat it like a condo.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody wants that. I was just bringing it to everyone's attention. So I don't want everyone to have to go and do all that extra work if nobody's interested in that concept. You see what I'm saying? It's just that right now, if you're listening to Brian, you're going to have a lot more family units than you are going to have senior housing. And that was never what we had planned on or were tasked to do at the beginning, when we were saying, your job is to go out and create senior housing. And this would not even come into the senior housing. I mean, you get way less, it's almost 50% less senior housing and more family housing at this point, in order to make it viable.
I totally understand where you're coming from, and I agree that this sounds like a departure from where you're at, but I'd also like to just change that perspective a little bit, or offer another perspective that it may be 50% senior housing and 50% family housing, but it's also, that's 20 more units of senior housing than you have right now. So even though it may be only half of the total units are senior housing, that's still 20 units of senior housing. The only other thing that I just wanted to add, and I know, Bill, that you have other meetings tonight, and I don't want to take up more time than I need to, but when you're considering the apartment style housing versus maybe like the cluster housing or the townhomes, the parcel behind the library is so close and walkable to the senior center and the library that I think people who would be, perhaps living in apartment style housing that has elevators and maybe more conducive to mobility issues, you would probably want them closer to those amenities, whereas folks who are living in townhomes or cluster housing or condos might be more suitable to the two parcels that are farther away, that are perhaps less walkable. So that's just some food for thought when you're thinking about placement. I know that right now we're focusing on the library parcel, but I just wanted to put that out there in terms of walkability.
Yeah, Mariah, though, I believe that when we're talking about that, we're talking about maybe a 600 or 900 square foot housing. We're not talking like huge homes at all with the clusters. And everything that would be, everything that would be senior, like big showers, wider doors, flat, everything that would be related to somebody that had to be in a wheelchair or anything of that nature.
So if the town is interested in going in that direction, I don't really care. We need to move in some direction. If that's the route we want to go and the town wants to go, then we go that direction. I think I'm in favor of going in the direction of affordable units, affordable housing mixed with senior housing. I think that gets us where we want to be, and the state would rather be there as well. And if we have that type of balance, I think this happens more quickly than you think it might happen. But
And you wouldn't have to buy the unit then, is that what you're
that's
saying?
correct, because the other argument that's being brought up is we're talking about people who can afford housing already. And you're trying to offer them a different way of living at a different price that they can afford. But that's something we were tasked with doing. We were tasked with giving people affordable housing.
Right.
Seniors first and others second. So I think at a minimum, we need to, the select board needs to make a decision as to which route they want to go. And maybe we can present to the board an example of both, so they can make an informed decision as to which way to go.
I agree with you. I know I'll be stuck in my house forever. My mortgage is what my Social Security is, so it's like, that's it. My mortgage covers my Social Security covers my mortgage, and that's no way to live.
Right.
And it's not my house.
Right.
So.
What about all the housing that's in the area? Like, we visited the ones up in Berniston, we visited the one in Gill, there's one in Montague, one in Greenfield. How did they all come about there? Is it just because of Franklin County?
Yeah, they're affordable, they're mixed use affordable. So they're kind of what Mariah's talking about, especially the Berniston one. That was a mixed use of families and of seniors. So that's the thing to keep in mind. And even the one that, the really nice one, the new one that we visited, I don't remember where, maybe it was in Hadley or something. They had just added the new
that was
units
South Amherst.
South Amherst, yeah, that was a mixed use as well. So, I mean, part of our thing is, if we're going to get any kind of developer interested, it sounds like we have to go the mixed use affordable.
Sounds like it.
No,
However,
stop.
I'm wondering, the townspeople tasked us with senior housing, so 60 and older. It sounds like if we want someone else to pay for it, we're going to have to make it affordable. I think we should at least let the taxpayers and the voters know that's the route that we are going to have to, a path we might have to consider. I'd hate for us to waste all this time
Me too.
and get it moving forward and go to town meeting to ask for the land lease, and people say, no way, seniors only, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I can see it happening. I hate to say that, but I can see it happening.
That's what's going to happen.
So it's almost like we have to take a step back. We have to say to the voters, we've been working on this a while. The money for seniors only has dried up, and there isn't anything out there that we can access at this particular time. We've already gone through the whole process. Now, one of the models that we're looking at is affordable mixed, and see what they say.
Right.
Because if we don't have their support, it's not going to move forward.
I
We need support for the land lease.
I would agree.
To that point, what if, to Bill's earlier suggestion, we take this back to the select board for public conversation? And maybe there's a way to put some type of non-binding question on the annual town meeting warrant, where we can ask the voters at town meeting how they would feel about this proposal, so that we have a little more direction about how to proceed.
Well, I know we can put a non-binding question on the ballot. So like in a ballot question, and have it be non-binding. You might get I hate to say this, a more honest reaction from people.
That's true.
As a whole, you have more numbers usually at voting than you do at town meeting. And we would have a better idea of what direction we should go in. They do that all the time on local ballots. And that's coming up in May.
Right, I think he's gonna be working on the ballot in the next 3 weeks. So I can ask him what the process is of submitting a question like that, and maybe we could ask the select board to consider making that request for a non-binding question on the ballot.
I think that's a really good idea. And I think that if you choose to go forward with that, I would just say that there would need to be information given out ahead of time explaining the question, because I think sometimes if there's not enough context, people read exactly what's on the ballot. So if you're asking, that's all they have. So I think if we were able to put out something in the Around Town and on Facebook or on the website explaining, here's all the work you've done so far, here's why we're asking this question, I think that might go a long way.
Well, and we usually send out just the election information as just a standalone on, you know, the elections and these are the hours. Then we could put
Okay.
that information in there and say, this is a non-binding question. You know, these are kind of like what they do with the questions, pros and cons. What is, you know,
Yep.
what does this mean? What doesn't this mean?
And then at the meeting, could it be, you know, a little short explanation? And it would be a question, because,
Well,
you know,
this year your meeting is coming after your election. So the election will happen after the town meeting.
Yes.
okay. The only reason I'm saying that is I love the Around Town, but it seems like there's a lot of people that don't read a lot of stuff. They just don't read it. And it's too
Well, they
bad.
cherry
because
pick.
It's a gift to them. This is a gift to them.
Agreed.
No?
Agreed.
I don't,
So
you can't do the
Brian
whole,
and
Go ahead.
Mariah, if you're still there, can we task you with checking with the clerk's office on the ballot question? And if it can't be done in time, a question for a non-binding question for the annual
Okay.
as
So
well.
that, and do you want us to ask Jake to put a agenda topic on a future select board meeting in March? Where
Yes,
we discuss the rest of this project? Okay.
yes.
Okay. I will get that done.
Okay, I suspect that there's not a whole lot of reason to continue to meet until we have some answers back from Mariah and Brian as to which direction we're gonna go, and then we'll meet within the allotted time in order to post it and do that as quickly as possible.
Well, we can post that select board meeting as a joint, so you all can have this
Okay.
conversation with the
All right.
select. Yep.
Okay,
And when
any
you,
other questions?
and
anyone
they'll say that either way, you mean bring up options for both or just go one way?
No, I think we'll be looking at options for both.
Okay, just needed to understand that, that's all.
If no objections, I make a motion to adjourn.
I can,
I-
We'll have another meeting when?
We'll meet when Brian and Mariah gets back to us as to what the answers to the questions are regarding the ballot and annual town meeting, and when we can have a joint meeting with the select board.
Okay,
So Bill made a motion. Who did the second?
Second?
Thank you, Gary.
All in favor?
aye,
Thank you all.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank
Aye.
you.
You all.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks,
Thank-
Paula.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.